Hey, hey. My name is Erwin, and I'm really happy to be here to present this webinar on exchanges and 8-week exchanges. I'm joined by this amazing team of people. Guys, would you like to introduce yourselves to everyone?
Yeah, sure. Hi, guys. I'm Tarek Turk from Syria. I am actually the Nori of Sensa Syria and Score DA. Tulio?
Hello guys, I'm Tulio, Nori from MSA Brazil.
It's muted.
Hillary?
Hillary, go ahead.
Hi guys, my name is Hillary. I am from MSA Brazil. I'm Elori.
Okay, perfect. So thank you very much, and sorry for the inconvenience of starting those 5 minutes late. Without much further ado, we're just going to move on to the presentation. Feel free to leave any comments in the comment section, and we'll be answering them by the end of the webinar during the Q&A section. Right to it. Okay, so our Global Action Project and 8-week exchange initiatives, the main idea is that we are focusing on giving global health primary role in the education of our exchange students, as well as all of us as exchange officers. So in order for us to better, to make the most, I would say, of Global Action Project and 8-week exchanges, we have to understand exactly what is global health. So global health, we have to understand that is not just one little thing or one little concept. Actually, the concept of global health is quite broad, and for many people it may mean many different things. But we have to understand that it's a conglomerate or a group of many disciplines and fields of work that are coming together to help us better understand how does health and public healthcare systems work around the world. So we have to understand that there are multiple factors that are causing illnesses in patients, and also try to comprehend what is the burden that they carry, not only for their own countries, but for the whole world. The idea in applying global health for medical students has a lot to do with acquiring skills that can allow us to better interact with not only patients of our country, but patients from neighboring countries, regions, and the whole world, trying to give you a better understanding of different populations and how to react to them. Also, by doing these projects, we are trying to achieve exposition to other cultural and health systems that will enrich your experience as a future physician in case you decide to practice in any other country or to understand the health systems in those countries. Also, you have to understand that there will be in the significance of the determinants of health. Items that go on these exchanges will be better exposed to these determinants, and we'll also be able to better improve this situation in the healthcare system you live in and any other country that want to practice medicine. And it will also popularize and give you more awareness in unequal or how much inequity we have in our healthcare systems, and how some countries could have certain problems, while some other countries may have totally different problems, more basic or more advanced problem. So where do we start to global health? IFMSA exchanges give us many opportunities, not only for exchange officers, but also for students that go on exchange to learn about global health. Many of these have to do with the clinical training, with the research opportunities we provide, with summer schools and internships that many of our NMOs host. The well-known IFMSA Global Action Project or program that Now Tulio and Hillary will explain a little bit better. Yes?
So, the Global Action Project, it is an attempt to fill that void and knowledge and awareness for medical students in the field of global health. Since the world has a lot of inequities, and these inequities make change difference the way that we provide healthcare in the other countries. So the main goal is to encourage the future health professions and learn the skills needed for the prevention, detection, and the treatment of endemic disease in the worldwide.
So now it's me. So how does it work? Through a 4 weeks interventional program, students will enhance the basic research skills under special circumstances and experience. These endemic diseases are treated in their native environment. Students will also be involved in the development of health promotion programs. So the different aspects that we have in GAP is that it goes over only the research, obligatory parts of training and field work. The research, our focus, the main idea that we need to keep and the main job that we need to work on is the research. So the time that we need to give to the research itself, it is around 60% of our exchange. Before the research, it's very good for us to have the training. It's necessary because when you think about an endemic disease that is endemic for other country and is not for ours, probably the publication that the other about this topic, this endemic disease, is bigger. So probably the students from the foreign students don't know very well how this disease works because it is not a disease from their country, you know. So giving this training will give the tools to the students to work better in the research exchange, in this gap exchange, and also in the field work. The field work, it might have around 30% of the time of the research. And I also call the field work as touch work. But how touch work? It's like you don't have only to grab at the field work the material that you use in the research. At the field work, are you listening to me? Everything's so quiet.
Yes, we hear you.
Yeah.
Okay, so sorry. So the field work is, I'm sorry, the field work is a part where the student will get in touch with this endemic disease. It's not necessary for him to grab new material to the research, but it's obligatory for him to get in touch with the reality of this endemic disease. For example, if he is doing a research about some endemic disease which mosquitoes passes, okay, which mosquito is the vector. It's not obligatory for the student to collect the vector, for example, to study things at the research that happens with this vector or that happens with this material. You only have to get in touch maybe with patients that are suffering this disease, or also he prevent work preventing this endemic disease, going to the house of people who suffer with this endemic disease. Sorry guys, I'm like struggling, but then I can do better. Next slide please, Irving. So to set up and sustain a gap exchange, it's necessary to find a good research project that focuses on an endemic disease, and then cover the three main pillars of the gap, which are research, training, and fieldwork. And it's needed to choose a suitable project. Better projects keep students motivated and active. So you need to recruit um, experienced tutors and a good team. Then it's necessary to fill out a gap form and run the regular process of setting up an exchange program. So having ECs, boarding, lodging, this kind of stuff. Here at FMSA Brazil, what I've done, it was in our NGA. I suggested to my lorries like 5 things, 5 diseases for them to work on it. I said to them, okay, so now that you have these 5 diseases, you need to work thinking about a research part, a training, and a fieldwork part that can enhance these diseases. And then I gave them like 10 minutes to work on it, and then they were presenting to me the possibilities to do this research. So I got a lot of outcomes from it. Release projects that could work in FMSA Brazil. The diseases that I've choose were endemic diseases that I knew that I had like just standard projects about them. So then I went to that lorries who had the research and asked them to find some kind of field work and to prepare a training with the tutor. And we had more field work. We had more gap projects declared at FMSA Brazil. Next.
One thing, I think the most important thing in the GAP project is the contact with the patient in the field of study, the field of working. So we can't forget this. Like the Tulio said, is the research is the main part of the study of the project. And the student, the contact with patient or with the community, it's very important to develop this exchange program.
Okay, thank you very much, Hillary, for the contribution. Tulio, you got anything that you want to add?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
Perfect.
I
So
thought it would have something explaining the parts of the gap, like the
yeah, what we can do
gap.
is we can share.
Yeah, so I can explain.
Now, yes, just a second. There we go.
Sorry. So let's work on the gap project farm. Okay. So first, you will have the general information that doesn't change anything about a common project, except for the tutors, that you can have more than one tutor for each part of the project. Theory, research, or fieldwork, you can have one or more for each one of these parts, and you should tell it at the general information. Okay, so let's keep moving. So about the description of the project, it's very similar. So you must provide a background of the project and tell it in from 5 to 15 lines. And then you need to put the topic about the project and the information that the student can find in articles. And then what's the role of the student and what are the general tasks expected to be fulfilled by him, her during the gap exchange. So you need to tell what the student will do in the exchange. And you need to tell it fast, like in 10 lines. And then could you go a little bit down? Thank you, Irving. And what are the practical skills and knowledge that the student will acquire during the gap exchange? it will depend of what the student is doing. So you need to explain this part. It must have a theoretical teaching, a training part. So you need to tell how it works. And at the field work, you need to tell what kind of field work the student will do, and also set the location and tell the duration of this part. Could you please go down? Thank you. And then you finally goes to the research itself. Um, so you need to tell the techniques and methods that you're using at the research itself, and also tell the outcome that the student will get from this research and what's possible for him to reach. So also you'll have the requirements. Sometimes to the fieldwork, it's needed to have the communication, need to have the language. So sometimes it can be a barrier, but also you can think in ways to the student to pass through this barrier, as like asking Lauris to follow the students at the fieldwork. So you need, if you have any struggle to set a gap project, a gap exchange, you need to think about how can I pass through this struggle. And also it tells, it's similar to the standard project. So, and then at the schedule, you need to say the minimum of the minimum time that the student can pass at the gap, and also the other things that are similar to the standard project. Okay, so that's all.
Okay, thank you very much. Going back to the presentation.
You're welcome.
And so, okay, great. So before we move on to 8-week exchanges, I would like to briefly summarize onto what global health is and how do we use it. Changes for those that had some trouble hearing it out. So the idea with teaching global health to medical students is about understanding the many factors that are causing illnesses in our patients and the global burden that they carry for the healthcare systems. It will help you acquire skills to better interact with different populations from all over the world. And it will also make you to other cultural and health systems, increase your knowledge and the significance of determinants of health. The many opportunities that IFMSA exchanges provide you in order to become better at knowing and acting on global health have to do with our clinical and research trainings and opportunities through exchanges, the summer schools and internships that many of the NMOs actually host, and our GAP projects that Hillary and Tulio just talked about. So I hope that pretty much summarizes it. And now we will be moving on to the 8-week exchange initiative, and I will hand over the words to Tarek. Tarek?
Thank you, everyone, Tulio and Hillary. So for the 8-week exchange initiative, I don't know why it looks like this on the slide. So it's basically, as its name implies, it's just instead of 4 weeks exchange, you have a longer period of time with few changes that are aimed, and we hope that it might increase the outcome of the students' experience. So the rationale behind this initiative and the reason why Scori people have developed and adopted this initiative are because first and foremost, it gives the student an opportunity to give a more in-depth approach for the research experience that he's on, in terms of around the thank you. In terms of sharing his experience and gaining more skills from the tutors and from his peers at a lab or at clinical setting. This initiative, there is a mandatory part of it, which is providing and creating a plan of action that the student will work on. We'll talk about it on other slides. And writing a scientific report, which these two aspects are very important, because when you work on a plan of action yourself, it dramatically increases your insight about the research, your abilities to design and to build your own research project in the future. And also, it's always good to polish your academic writing while writing the scientific report and getting introduced to the basics of how scientific reports are usually written, or even creating a poster for your program or for a conference. And as always, this initiative includes the basic research part, the clinical research part, and some projects that are combined for the two. So these are the reasons for some people. And on the other slide, you can see that some people just want more. Their 4 weeks are over and they just want an extra 4 weeks. They're just so in love with the research that 4 weeks are not enough for them. So this initiative is, of course, directed their way. Next slide, please. So what are the differences, how to approach this initiative and how to set it up? So let's go through all the basic aspects of a regular exchange and see how it differs between them. So for starters, when approaching tutors, it's always important to inform and to make it crystal clear to the tutor that this is an 8-week project and an 8-week commitment. It's always it's a new tutor, it's always good to start from the baseline, from introducing IFMSA, SCORY, and the whole process that you're most probably familiar with. If it's an old tutor, you should always highlight the differences between what a 4-week exchange and what an 8-week exchange is, and what are the different expectations and outcomes, and even the program itself. So you need to get tutors who are interested and who are willing to give and mentor in an 8-week project. For the project form, it's pretty much the same. No big differences. It's just there. Make sure to click and to make sure that you check the box where you indicate that it's an 8-week exchange. It's not if a 4-week exchange. In your exchange conditions on the database, there's also a specific part where you provide this information that this is an 8-week project. Also, it's always important to highlight and to emphasize what additional or what different requirements your NMO or your local setting would require the student to provide before they come onto such project. Boarding and lodging, of course, you're going to board and lodge the student for a longer period of time. So this should be, of course, taken into consideration in terms of finances and in terms of logistics. With recruitment here, I meant the recruitment of students and the recruitment actually of because before you start, if your NMO has no prior experience with the EightWeek exchange initiative, maybe you'd like to start by assessing the interest of your students. Are there enough students interested before you go on and sign contracts? Is it possible that you have a huge amount of students interested in this initiative, and maybe the other way around? Also, it's important to the AM, you make sure that to target and to know which NMOs provide such projects, because of course not all NMO adopt this initiative. So you can maybe send some emails, maybe get some connections and chat with some Noris at the MM. which always good to give you insight before you start signing your contracts as 8 weeks. In terms of contracts, the contracts are it's pretty much the same process. What I want to highlight here is that you can, as Nori, decide what you can break the 8 week period in half, and you can sign it in several ways. So you can send an 8 week outgoing and receive 2 4 week incomings. You can send 8 week and receive 8 week, and maybe you can just send 2 4 weeks and receive 1 8 week. This is totally flexible and totally and can fit the needs and what you're looking for at your setting and what you already have. The application form is pretty much the same with the AF, the CC, the EC, everything. No big differences in this aspect. So it's just to recap, the exchange conditions should be crystal clear. The recruitment process and the assessment before you start signing the contracts could be either 8 8 or 8 2 4s. The boarding and lodging, the project form, just you need to make sure that you take into consideration that it's an 8 week, not a 4 week project. Next slide, please, Erwin. So during and after the exchange, during the exchange, the logbook, there is a specific logbook for 8 week exchanges that you can find in your beloved Nori folder. You might want to give it a look and highlight it when you're giving your PDT. The evaluation forms will be ready at the database while the student is on his exchange, and always and of course there is a specific certificate for 8 week exchanges to give for students. Or maybe while I was doing the presentation, it just occurred to me that it would be maybe a nice prank to give the student 2 4 week certificates instead of one for 8 weeks, and let's see how they respond. If any Noris do this, just let me know how it turns out. So in terms of outcomes, this initiative had we hope for it to have a different spectrum and maybe wider spectrum of outcomes, especially that you're going to prepare your plan of action, which is almost like writing a protocol for a research project. The first week of your exchange will be just an introduction, and the second week will be working on your plan of action, how you want to be doing and to be acting, what skills you're gaining, what methods you're going to adopt throughout the 8 weeks. Since it's a longer period, you might be able to attend and to give more workshops, and maybe the knowledge that you'll gain throughout the 8 weeks will be enough for you maybe to conduct a workshop of your own when you come back home. The scientific report and the scientific or the poster are also mandatory for this initiative, and I personally think that it's a great outcome after your exchange, because in 4 weeks you might not be able to, especially when it's lab work, it's almost not enough to generate a data set, analyze it, and maybe come out with the results. But in 8 weeks, especially if you're in a clinical setting, this might give you more time to get more data and to get your scientific report. And of course, your scientific report, not necessarily the whole publication of the whole project, because some projects take years to be to generate all the data. But the data that you worked on can be, of course, outlined as a scientific report and presented to your tutor at the end of your exchange, and maybe you can publish it somewhere, maybe in medical students journal at your local setting, or maybe even international. So the next slide, we're going to just highlight some more details regarding the plan of action and the scientific report. So as I mentioned before, the first week, you will be asked to start working on your plan of action by the second week of your exchange. The first week will be just an introduction, you getting familiar with the project, with your colleagues, with your tutors, and with everything. Then you will be asked to prepare your plan of action, which um, will is expected to have the following ideas. First, you need to give a general background about the research that you're working on, which is always a good way to start. The hypothesis that you're aiming to prove or maybe disprove. What are you expecting? What is the research question that you're working on? What's the dilemma that you're trying to solve? And of course, the methods that you're going to use to achieve this. Is it in a clinical or in a lab settings? It's always good to know the methods that you're going to be working with for this period of time. And of course, at the end, you're going to summarize your plan of action and just maybe outline the outcomes that you're expecting. This will take place at the second week, and at the end of the 8th week, you will be asked to submit a scientific report with an introduction. It's pretty much the same as the background that you have written um, in your plan of action. But of course, at the end of the 8th week, you will have a broader vision and more information to add to your report, the methods that you used in details, and even if you have used any statistical methods, that would be great to include them under this section. The results and the data that you synthesized and analyzed, discussion of this, the results and the ideas that you came up with, previous research that were done similar to yours, and a conclusion to wrap the whole thing up. And maybe I see this as a great opportunity to publish your work in an international journal, which is great for a medical student to be familiar with um, before graduation. As you can see, the scientific report is not necessarily a great long piece of work. It's just 1 to 1.5K words. So I think it's totally feasible, and it's a great opportunity to learn from. So that pretty much, I think, it covers the whole idea of an 8-week exchange, with all the differences between the two exchange projects and some details about the initiative. Um, Erwin, would you like to wrap this up?
Yes, thank you, Tarek. Thank you very much. Now we will be moving on to the Q&A section. So if anyone wants to ask a question, feel free to write it in the comment section, and we will give it some time for you to write it right now. If there are no answers, we will be ending the webinar. Okay, we got a question directly pointed at Tarek. It says, Tarek, can the student ask help for the tutor to write the plan of action, or does he need to come up with all of the ideas?
No, totally. Of course, you're there to learn, so you're going to try to work on your own for while you start, and every part, especially for the methods section, because we do not expect all students to be familiar with all the methods that are being used in a research projects, especially if it's some highly scientific project. So you can totally ask your tutor, and you can ask your peers, you can ask anyone to learn and to make your plan of action a great one.
Okay, thank you very much. No other questions? Okay, there doesn't seem to be any more questions. All right.
Good.
So,
So
yeah, I just guess it's time to give any final recommendations. Anything you guys want to say to wrap up or to, finalize and wrap things up? Do you want to start, Tulio? Say something, add something else?
Sorry, could you please repeat the question, please? Ernie?
Oh, yeah. Just if you want to say anything, if you want to give any final thoughts or feedback or any
Okay.
final ideas.
So, guys, sorry for anything, but about gap exchange, when you think about it, you need to work in the endemic disease and then prepare a research focusing on this in this disease. If you try like only to find for gaps and try to do things, how can I say? Pardon me. So to set the gap project, you need to see the endemic disease and see that it is a problem to your country, to your region, and then working in how can you solve and how can you study it. If you just look gaps only for the gap thing, it can not work, you know. So remember always that the field work, it don't need to be just to catch information to the research. The field work might be a part to the student get in touch with the disease itself, you know. So that's all. Thank you for everything, and sorry
Okay.
for anything I've done wrong.
No, it's fine. It's totally fine. Tarek, do you want to add something?
um, just want to thank you guys for your time and for your efforts, and um, maybe just to emphasize that these two projects are really amazing in my personal opinion. They give chances to students to get exposed to a new set of skills that will be always good for them when they graduate and that get to real life work, especially for the global health, the global action project, which exposes them to what global health is and how to actually be on the field and contribute to tackling these global health issues, which is a critical need at in the meanwhile, especially that our world is struggling with so many public health issues that we need more people working on this, and we need a task force that will work in collaboration to tackle all these issues. So it's great for a student to be exposed to these skills by such an early stage of their career, and also, of course, for the 8 week exchange, especially with its ability to gain more experience and more skills with the academic writing and preparing a plan of action, designing your research, and getting more involved with the lab work or even the clinical work. So it's a great opportunity as well. I do hope that you guys get the most out of all these projects. And I do hope we all together get a better future for this world. Thank you, Erwin, and thank you guys for your time.
That is totally fine. Thank you. There is a question actually, and yes, we're going to answer it. Wing, anyone that wants to take it can. It says a lot of European countries don't really have any endemic diseases. How do you, or do you have any tips for these animals to still organize GAP? Anyone wants to take it? If not, I will answer it.
To me, like how I see global health issues, it's not limited to endemic diseases. There are several public health issues. Like you can take the refugees crisis as a global health issue that the world need more input on, and if there are any research projects that are taking place in Europe, you can totally get some tutors and build your own project and get it as a project for a GAP exchange. And of course, as I said, global health issues are not limited to endemic diseases. This is my own insight. So what do you think, Erwin?
Yeah, I would like to complement a little bit.
Go ahead.
Even if you diabetes is an endemic disease of the whole world. The whole world suffers with diabetes. So you need to find a tutor who works with diabetes, and so this tutor will work with a population who is diabetic, and like it don't need to be a disease that only your account have, and it's like so specific and so rare disease. Like obesity can be, you can think about a lot of, and they are endemic diseases because it affects a population. So I really think It's that the like thing so specific and so rare disease. So like obesity can be, sorry, I mean, you can think about echo from the other guy, sorry. Um, so the main thing about the global action project is that you get in touch with the disease and with the patient. So it will be easier for you to memorize the things that you learn because you're getting in touch with this reality. So you have the patient. You're not only seeing in bugs, you're not only studying the project itself. You're like getting in touch with the disease and trying to solve the problem, trying to find solutions. That's all.
Perfect. Thank you, Tulio. I wanted to add one more thing, and I think everyone agrees, and everyone said it kind of already. The idea is that you don't have to consider that only endemic diseases are public health issues. You can also consider non-communicable diseases, certain types of cancer or certain type of genetic disorders. You could talk about mental health or even work with tutors that work around with mental health, or any other prevalent disease from around the world. It could be, like Tulio said, it could be obesity, it could be diabetes, it could be high blood pressure, it could be, there are so many possibilities. So the idea is to not think that endemic diseases are only limited to tropical and very rare vector-bear diseases. So the idea is to keep your mind very broad and try to bring whatever you see as an issue for your country's healthcare system. Okay, there is another question from Amina. She said, are the GAP exchanges two-way exchanges, or could they also be one-way? For that matter, GAP exchanges, GAP contracts can be unilateral. Okay. There is another question from Amina. She said, yeah, so that might be a very clear answer. Yes, you can sign a unilateral contract for GAP exchanges, and they could also be bilateral. But of course, you will have to pay the unilateral fee to the animal that you're going to. All right. Yes. So we stayed in the middle of the farewells. And Hillary, do you have any final thoughts you would like to say, or something you would like our viewers to think about as a take-home message? our viewers to think about as a take-home message?
Yes, Erin, actually, they are saying, oh, Tarek and Tulio said about how we can create a GAP project. Also, car accident, we can talk about too.
Our viewers to think about as a take-home message?
Yes, Erin, actually, they are.
I don't know if there's some sort of feedback. Is there some sort of feedback? Can you guys hear it?
Her? I'm not listening here anymore.
Okay. The thing is that there was some sort of feedback. I was hearing myself twice. I don't know if you guys did that, like heard that.
Yeah, it happens when we don't turn off the microphone. I'm always turning it off.
Okay. I'll mute myself and try to give you one more shot. Hillary, go for it.
What did you say, Irving?
I just said that if she could try one more time, but I guess the feedback isn't allowing her because every time she talked, I could hear myself speaking for some reason, even though I muted myself. That doesn't matter. I guess we're gonna have to go with that. And well, I guess I'll take it from here and give my take-home message. I just want everyone who's watching this to think about the big opportunity that you guys are giving to your students, or if you're a student, the great opportunity you're giving yourself to learn more about global health and about how it affects our world. And these two initiatives that we are working on in SCORI and we have been working on for some time certainly have helped us a lot and have helped many students in learning more about the world they live in and the healthcare system they are exposed to. So I want you to take this opportunity at heart and really make the most of it. And if you're a Nori or a Lori and want to make it happen, please do, because it is one of the initiatives that we want to work on the most during this term. And we really need your help to make it happen. And just like Hillary and Tulio and IFMSA Brazil have been working so greatly to cement GAP and develop it, we want you to take a part of it too and be a part of this change that we're making in students' lives by exposing them and showing them what global health is. And yeah, that's about it. Hillary, can you talk now? Okay, I guess not. So thank you very much, everyone, for being here. Thank you, Tarek. Thank you, Tulio. Thank you, Hillary, for the amazing webinar we've had. And thank you all for watching. I really appreciate it. If you guys have any further questions, don't doubt to contact your officer, your NMO officer, your NORI, if you're a LORI, or contact us, the RAs. We are there for you 24/7, and our email inboxes are always open for you if you have any questions. Also, Tarek, I think you're more than welcome to receive any emails for it too. I'm sure you'll be really glad to do so. So yeah, thank you very much, guys. And I can't wait to see you either in Paraguay during the RM or in Egypt in the March meeting.
See you guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tarek. Thank you, Tulio. Thank you, Hillary. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone that are watching us. So, love you all. See you in Egypt. Are you going? I'm going. Please go to Egypt.
We're going.
Yeah, I'm going to Egypt too. Yeah, we're going. All right. So see you, everyone.
See you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.